Kalkadosh Boker Or. We are doing now, this is Mishnayot Masechet Nazir, Perek Aleph, the first chapter of Masechet Nazir. We're going to speak about, obviously, this is the entire halachot of a Nazir. A Nazir is a person that accepts upon himself minimum of a 30 days period where he's going to become a Nazir. So what's the Nazir? He cannot obviously become tamei to a dead body, to a corpse. He cannot cut his hair, and he's not allowed to drink any wine or eat any grape products. Okay, now there's going to be different types of nazirot, right? The nazirs, as we're going to speak about, there's going to be for a male is a nazir, a woman it's going to be a nazira. And we're going to start as follows, right? Mishnah Aleph, kol kinuye nezirut kenezirut, which means any substitute for the words of a nazir is also effective as a nazir as well. Meaning you don't have to just say, I am a nazir. Even if you don't say those words, I am a nazir, but you say anything which is similar to that, you also become a nazir. The Gemara is going to add on that we're actually adding that it's also the yadot, which means anything which is included, right, which sounds like it as well. So, for example, haomer aheh. What does that mean? You see a nazir walking by the street, and all of a sudden you say, "I'm going to be a nazir. I'm going to be like him." You don't see the word nazir. I shall be. So what happens? It is a nazir. It's a nazir. Why? Because it's obvious that when you say "I shall be," and the nazir was right in front of you, it meant that you want to be like him. Okay, but if he's not walking in front of you, then it's not effective because I shall be what? Maybe you're going to be in a ta'anit. Maybe you're going to be something else. So therefore, it has to be something which is effective that you could actually see that this is what's going on. It has to be something that there's a proof to it. So somebody comes and he says, I shall be, and the Nazir is walking by, I shall be, that means already that you're going to become a Nazir as well. Or, ehen naveh, or he just says, I'm going to become handsome. Right now what? He's grabbing his hair. So when he's grabbing his hair and he says, I'm going to become handsome, now he's going to have nice long hair. So then he becomes a Nazir as well. Right? If he says, right, so also he becomes a Nazir. If he uses the terminology Nazik, Naziach, Paziach, these are three different terminologies, right, which basically, since it came from other languages, right, it came from other languages, which was the non-Jews didn't know how to pronounce Nazir properly. So therefore they started saying things which originated from us. But again, it sounds like Nazir. So Nazik, right? Naziach, right? Or Paziach. So also they're going to become a Nazir because that's Ki'ilu you're saying in a foreign language that you're going to become a Nazir. If a person comes and he says, Hareni Kazeh, I am going to be like this one, and he's motioning to the Nazir that is walking by, or Hareni Misalsel. He comes and he grabs his hair and he says, I'm taking upon myself to smooth out my hair. Or Hareni Mechalkel, I'm giving kalkala, I'm giving parnasat to my hair, which means you're letting it grow long. Harez and Nazir also, in this case, it's going to be Nazir, right? In the first case, the words clearly state that he accepted upon himself the Nazir, like the person passing by. In these last three cases, it was basically that his intention is clear to become a Nazir because he's making it that his hair is going to grow long and therefore to cut his hair. If a person comes and he says, Hare alai tziporim, right, which means it is hereby an obligation for me to bring birds while the Nazir is walking by. Rabbi Meir Omer, Nazir. Rabbi Meir says, he is a Nazir. Chachamim omrim eno nazir. Chachamim say he's not a nazir. What's the machloket exactly? We know that a nazir is not allowed to become tamei, but if he does become tamei, he has to bring the birds in order to atone for him. Chachamim come and they say, yeah, but that's not the only case. Meaning a nazir walking by does not always mean that he has to accept upon himself the birds. Maybe he's just stam a nedava. He wants to give a bird offering, right? Because not every single nazir is obligated to bring the birds. That's what the Meiri says. It's in Chachamim. So therefore, because of that, there's a machloket, Rabbi Meir and Chachamim. The fact that somebody comes and he says, it's going to be like the birds, does it automatically mean that he's going to be a Nazir or not? Mishnah Bet. Hareni Nazir mina chartzanim, mina zagim, mina tiglacha, mina tuma, harez Nazir, v'chol diknuke Nazirut alav. Imagine a person says, I'm a Nazir, but from what? Only from the grape seeds. Or a person says, I'm a Nazir only from the grape skins, the zagim. Or he says, I'm only not going to cut my hair. Or he says, I'm only not going to become tamei. Harez Nazir, he becomes a Nazir, and he becomes a full Nazir. There's no such thing as accepting upon yourself a Nazirut for only parts of there. We will speak about that there is certain Naziruts that do apply different halachot, but here it doesn't apply. Means that he's a full-fledged Nazir. A person says, Hareni kishimshon, I'm like Shimshon, like Samson. Or Keber Manoach, the son of Manoach, this is his father. Or like the husband of Delilah. Remember, the wife of Shimshon was Delilah, so the husband of Delilah. Or like the one that tore the gates of Gaza out, or the one that that they tore out the eyes, which is basically the Pelishtim took out his eyes. Harez Nazir Shimshon. He becomes a Nazir Shimshon, which is in the Torah. Nazir Olam Nazir Shimshon. What's the difference between Nazir Olam and Nazir Shimshon? He says Nazir Olam hichbit tzaro mekel betoar. A Nazir Olam, which means a person that's a Nazir Olam, a permanent Nazir, the second that his hair grows too long, what he does is that he's able to cut his hair, he trims it with a razor, and he has to bring 3 animals, just like a regular Nazir that comes and he finishes the Nazir period, he has to bring it. Ve'im nitma, now if he becomes tamei, he has to bring Korban Tumah. Nazir Shimshon is different than that. You know why? Hichbit tzaro, even if his hair becomes heavy, he never trims. Meaning he becomes a Nazir Shimshon that he never trims his hair in his life. But there's one difference though, to leniency though. If he becomes tamei, he doesn't bring a korban tumah. The halachah states that he's even mutar to become tamei. Remember, Shimshon killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people. He was allowed to become tamemet, but he wasn't allowed to come and to take off his hair. Mishnah Gimel, Stam Nazirut 30 Yom. Whenever we speak about an unspecified time of Nazirut, is always going to be 30 days. So a person says he's a Nazir, minimum 30 days. Amar Hareni Nazir Achak Dola. What happens if he says, I'm a Nazir one long term? Hareni Nazir Achak Tada. Or he says, I'm going to be a short-term Nazir. Afinu mikam ve'ad sof ha'olam. Or even if he said from here until the end of the world, he's only going to be Nazir for 30 days. Because since he didn't specifically clarify the length of Nazirut, so therefore we say it's going to be 30 days. But if he says, Hareni Nazir v'yom echad, I'm a Nazir plus 1 day. Or Hareni Nazir v'shachat, or Hareni Nazir echat u'metzah, 1.5. So then he's going to be Nazir twice. Because since he already said that he's a Nazir plus, so therefore what happens is now he's going to be twice. Hareni Nazir 30 yom v'sha'achad. But what happens if he says, I'm going to be a Nazir for 30 days and 1 hour? Or, so Nazir 31 yom. Or he's going to be 31 days. So he comes and he says, in such a case, he's a Nazir for 31 full days. Why? She'en nozrim l'sha'ot. Because there's no such thing as an hour. Meaning you can't become a Nazir for an hour. So therefore, if you said 30 days plus 1 hour, so it means 31 days. Okay? Mishnah Dalet. Hareni Nazir kese'ar roshi ve'ke'afar haaretz u'chol hayam. If a person comes and he says, I'm going to become a Nazir as the hair on my head, or as the dust of the earth, or as the sand of the sea. Harez the Nazir olam. It's a Nazir forever. But this Nazir olam, every single 30 days, megalach achat l'shoshim yom. He's going to come, and for the rest of his life, he's going to do 30-day cycles. Right? Now, why? Because basically, since there's so many countless different hairs, it meant that he accepts upon himself separate terms of Nazirut as each hair. So each hair is 130 days. So therefore, every single 30 days, he cuts his hair, but he has to start again. Cuts his hair, starts again. Cuts his hair. That's the way so in practice, it's for the rest of his life, but every 30 days, he's allowed to cut his hair. Rabbi argues. Rabbi says, you can't cut your hair every 30 days. So this is why, because he comes and he says like this one is becoming a full term. It's one long permanent term that basically if a person is a permanent Nazir, so therefore they could only do it once every 12 months. So he says, ve'ezehu then, shemegaleach achal li yom, that you're going to be megaleach once every 30 days. Haomer alei alai nazirut kise'ar roshi ve'kafar haaretz u'chol hayam. Here is saying he's going to become like the se'ar roshi, or like kafar haaretz, like chol hayam. That's going to be the nazirut. Okay? Mishnah 5. Hareni nazir melo bayit umlo kupav. Someone says, I'm going to become a nazir as a house full or a box full. Now, we don't know what he means, right? We don't know what to accept. It's a never-ending term. Is it a single term? So, Botkinoto, we're going to check him. If he said that it's going to be one long nazirut, right? So basically, it's a single term of 30 days, which is basically, to him, it's like a large box or a large house. So, nazir shoshim yom. But if he said stam nazarti, right? That basically he just said it's stamna, whatever it means. So then, ruinet kupa kilu milia chardal. We're going to look at this kupa, this box that is full of mustard seeds, and therefore he's going to be nazir all the days of his life, right? Why? Because basically it's lasting forever, right? Because basically you can't count the mustard seeds. So in such a case, he says, right? Even if we're going to assume that he referred to countless seeds, everyone agrees here that it's a single term that never ends. Because in this case, you refer to the seeds as a houseful, right? As one group, right? As a single unit. Okay, Mishnah 6, the second last one. Imagine a person says he's going to become a Nazir from here until he gets to a certain place. So let's say from here to New York. So he says, you're going to check how long does it take to travel to that place. If it's less than 30 days, obviously the minimum is 30 days. If it's more, so then it's going to be according to the amount of days that it's going to be. Last Mishnah, Hareni Nazir Kiminyan Yamot HaChama. If a person is going to become a Nazir for the days of the solar year. So Monen Naziru Kiminyan Yamot HaChama. So he has to count 30 days of, 30 years basically. It's 365 terms of 30 days. Because here, the fact that he said Kiminyan, right? Yemot HaChama, it's like the minyan of the 365 days. So you have to do the 365 days, meaning 365 times of the Nezirut. So 365 times 30 days is 30 years, basically. So he comes and he says, right? Why? Because he added the word kiminyan. However, though, he comes and he says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, what's the proof to this? Here it's Amar Rabbi Yehuda, which means it's a proof. He's not arguing. He's bringing a proof because somebody wanted to say that it's not 365 times 30, it's for the rest of the rest of the world, right? The rest of his lifetime. That's a Gemara in Masechet Nazir of Chet Amubet. He quotes a Tana, which is Rabbi, that argues in the Tanakama, and according to him, it's a permanent Nazir for the rest of his life, basically, because for him it exists as long as the sun exists. So as long as the sun exists, he becomes a Nazir. So it will never stop. So Rabbi Yehuda wants to bring a proof to the Tanakama that it does cease to exist, because he says, Maaseh Ayah, Kevan Shishlim, there was a story that once he finished the 30 years of becoming a Nazir, he actually died. So the fact that first he finished the term, it means that you do the 365 times 30, and therefore it's 30 years, but this is a proof that it could actually end, and once it ends, that's when he died. So this is a proof, not like Rabbi, but rather like Tanakama.